Before we get started with today's show, I just want to remind you that you can save 10% on your order with Symphony of Balloons, a luxury balloon company that also offers a 360 camera. Just simply mention you heard about them on Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Happy New Year to everybody. Welcome to a brand new edition of Breaking Through Glass Ceilings, Uncomfortable Conversations. If this is your first time listening to the show, first and foremost, thank you. Thank you for listening and welcome to my channel. I appreciate y'all, and this is where I like to talk about trending topics and things that may or may not make you uncomfortable, but also things that's happening, and I give my opinion on it. So with that being said, we'll jump right into it, but make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure you like the video also, or if you dislike it, guess what? It all goes into the algorithm, baby. But all appreciation is all support is appreciated. So we're gonna jump right in. Starting off, Shannon Sharpe. He has recently went viral. If you've been following this show, you know about the breaking through the glass moment, right? The moment when you've arrived, the moment when you say, okay, I'm pretty good at what I do. Well, for Club Shay Shay, I would say it's been a good show. A lot of good content throughout the time it's been on. I think in almost maybe 2 years. I know he had it when he was at Fox, and now he's with ESPN, but this is I think it's on the volume. Great show. It's in my podcast subscriptions, right? But this was a breaking through the glass moment, and here's why. He's got 15 million plus views on his interview with Katt Williams, or you could say conversation. It's titled Katt Williams Unleashed. Now, this is the first time I've seen a 35-minute clip on Twitter that I actually wanted to watch the whole thing of. That was not a wrestling match. Katt Williams went on his show and he talked about all of the other comedians and things that people may or may not have thought. He addressed some things. He talked about comedians that stole his jokes, comedians that were essentially phony. He talked about Jonathan Majors. He even said Jonathan Majors was pretty much like a lot of people called. He said, if they build you up, they could tear you down when they want to. And he went on to say, when did they ever tell us a black man with a big nose, big stomach was sexy? And I'm sitting there listening. I walk into the locker room as I'm finishing getting my workout, and I was like, ooh. Now, I'm going to be real with you. I have a lot of friends who are women. I have 3 natural sisters and a few add-ons. I've never seen any of them or anyone on my timeline thirst over Jonathan Majors. But I said, okay, to each his own. Well, guess what? Katt Williams pretty much said what a lot of people. He said, when did that happen? He said Hollywood convinced us that he was good looking and then told us not. And he, Katt Williams went on to say a lot of stuff. But Shannon Sharpe would take criticism from the internet world. Because everybody said, "Oh, you need journalists in this position. We need real journalists. Should have been asking those questions. If he was a real journalist, he would have followed up." And I'm sitting there and I'm scrolling. And shout out to DJ Flow. Me and DJ Flow went to Morgan State University together. And one of the things he said to somebody, quotes, he said, "Journalist. He's not a journalist. He's a former athlete, a football player who has a platform." And yeah, let's go there. I've seen people who are journalists, use this as an opportunity to say this was wrong with the business today, and have those type of takes, and have takes like, well, I'm a journalist, I'm not an entertainer. And I thought that was interesting. I'll be honest with you, I'm a journalist. I went to journalism school. Shout out to Morgan State University. It was a department at the time. The next year became the School of Global Journalism. And I've gone on the wrestling realm and Break It Down with Brian H podcast where I've shown my credentials. I pulled out my books. I don't need to do that here. But I will say, yes, I'm a journalist. It's something that I did want to study the craft. But over time, I learned to adapt with the industry. When I first knew that I wanted to get in this, I was in 8th grade and I wanted to write about sports, especially around 10th grade when I realized I would never be good enough to be a professional athlete. And then I wanted to become a commentator. And then I wanted to become a producer. I've been blessed to do all of those jobs in some way, shape, or form. By the way, speaking of writing, go to theringer.com/WWE, or you can look up my author profile. Just type in Brian Waters, and you'll see that I've just put out a brand new article. Shout out to Cal of Wednesday Worldwide, who's the senior editor there. He edited my piece where I did a 2023 mixtape. But that's just a quick plug. But I respect Shannon Sharpe because he says he's not a journalist. He's telling you he's not a journalist. And I respect that because he's telling people if you want hard hitting questions and you want all of this, go to Barbara Walters, go to some of those other platforms. And I did comment under his Instagram. I really appreciate it. And I really hope he doesn't have to explain himself. I hope he chooses not to explain himself anymore. He sat across the desk with journalists and Skip Bayless. People may not realize that. People think Skip is just a loudmouth. Skip Bayless was a journalist. He was a sports writer. Check his credentials. Stephen A. Smith, sports writer. They are journalists. Journalists have become personality, again, evolving over the years. You think if Skip Bayless was still writing and just doing stuff like that, he wouldn't be a millionaire. Let's be real. Maybe, at least multimillionaire. So, like I said, I respect Shannon Sharpe. I understand exactly why he said what he said, but he's an entertainer and he gave the platform. Draymond Green warned y'all a couple years ago. The new media is coming and nobody wanted to pay attention. Everybody wanted to say, oh man, whatever. And I understand. There's a lot of people who put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of papers and articles that they wrote, spent hours on, never to be published. I understand that. But just got to understand the business is changing. If you would have told me that I needed to learn how to edit audio, you learn how to use Photoshop, learn how to get familiar and use After Effects, I wouldn't have known that if you told me that in 8th grade. I'm like, wait, what? I just want to talk about sports. Or I just want to write about sports. But as time happened, it evolved. I evolved. I wanted to be versatile. So that's why I learned how to edit video. That's why I learned how to write about sports. So that's where I'm with that, But shout out to Shannon Sharpe. Like I said, the interview was funny. I'm pretty sure by now you've seen it. Shannon Sharpe got it, but he had to unleash on people, let people know. And I remember, let me share a quick story. And this is why I have a lot of respect for Shannon Sharpe. When I was at ESPN 2014, it's about the summer. I was working on Mike and Mike in the Morning. Shout out to Seth Horowitz and Nate Schiller, my co-workers. Seth was the segment producer and Nate was the fellow production assistant. And Mike and Mike, our shift was from 3:30 in the morning to 12:30, right? But right around the show was from 6 to 10. And right around 9, that's when you would have First Take happen. Are you a podcaster who is looking to share clips from your show in the simplest way possible? Well, I have the best solution, and that's Opus Clip. Opus Clip allows you to take the link to your show, upload it, and then they will clip off some of the best moments. And it allows you to edit it, change the captions, change the colors, and they also give you a viral score so you know which clip can potentially generate more buzz for your show. So if you're looking to do that, click the link in the bio, sign up for Opus Clip, and go viral with some of the best content from your show. Now, let's move on. I told you we're getting uncomfortable today, right? Well, let's get uncomfortable. Cameron that he would rather use the term Black American over African American. And his reasoning is, and because I had to make sure I watched the clip, I didn't watch the whole thing, but everything you need to know is right in the clip. His reasoning is, in his words, make sure I put this, his words was Africans don't fuck with us. When we go to the Olympics, it's all about USA. He even said they call us Yankees. I thought this was very interesting as somebody who is close to people who, I'm going to use the words, know their exact roots and ties to Africa. I thought this was very interesting. Um, because to be honest with you, at one point I had a similar take. Call me Black, don't call me African American. My reasoning wasn't the same though. My reasoning was, when you look at people of Asian descent, right? You'll say Chinese American, Japanese American. You do say Asian Americans, but you always tend to nail it down to the country. When you talk about even people like Europe, you might say, you know, French American, German American, or something, or people know the exact country. But I felt we was just like, oh, just throw all of Africa together and not the continent. That was me. I've since come around, but like I said, it's an uncomfortable conversation for sure. I'm not gonna say I agree or disagree with him. I say that's his preference. I've heard Steve Harvey say, y'all can have all y'all words, but I'm Black. But then I've also heard other people say they don't like the term Black when referring to people. They would say brown, or. So I just thought that was very interesting. I do think the phrase Africans don't fuck with us, I feel like that's tired, different. I don't know. I've had great experiences. I have close friends, like I said, who know exactly where they're from. Me personally, I don't know where the Waters family, or on my mother's side, that as they never told us which one. They always say Edmund Hawkins, right? If anybody in my family listening, they know exactly what I mean. That Edmund Hawkins blood. That's what they always say. That Edmunds Hawkins, but you gotta say one word. Edmund Hawkins. I don't know where all of this began. I don't know which part of the continent of Africa where it began. So you know, I just think, like, it's unfortunate that a lot of us don't. And I've expressed this. I remember, I'm not going to reveal names. I'll say I was in a group chat with a couple people who were of Asian descent, and they knew exactly which country their family was from. And I said, this was during 2020. And I said, it's really good. Y'all have a sense of identity. Y'all know exactly where you come from. Here, I'm just, a Black American who's kind of, like, the country we knew, especially in 2020, this is right on the heels of George Floyd. I was like, man, I don't know where my family is from. Can't tell me go back to my country, which I think is very ignorant to tell people, by the way. But you can't tell me that. This is my country. This is where everybody's from. But I don't raise the U.S. flag either too much. I'm not walking around with the U.S. flag like, oh yeah, and it's unfortunate because you'll see it in somebody's bio, and you automatically think the worst. You see it in a Black person's bio, you think of Candace Owens, people like her, people who are so far on the conservative side, or people who are ignorant to the racial injustices. So I thought this was a very interesting take, very uncomfortable conversation. Nonetheless, Cameron's entitled to his opinion. If we want to stay there, Let me address some people. Okay. This year, I'm going to go into the squared circle, brother. Where is it? This year, we are celebrating in the wrestling world 40 years of Hulkamania, 40 years of Hulk Hogan. Now, if you know, you know, and if you don't, allow me to explain. In the spring of 2015, an audio tape was released in which Hulk Hogan used the word, excuse me, let me double back, in which Terry Bollea, the man who portrays the role of Hulk Hogan, used the word nigger, with a hard ER. And when he said that, all black people decided they did not like Hulk Hogan no more. And because they heard him say that and they were over it. And I'm not going to play the audio, but because I'm actually, all right, here we go. I found it. I'm going to read the quote because I don't want to hear it again. I've heard it enough. He was sitting there. So here's the story. Let me set you up, right? He's sitting in a bedroom with Bubba the Love Sponge, a host or a disc jockey down in Florida, who was like his best friend. He's sitting there with his wife, and I guess they was beginning to, or they just had sex, whatever. But he was venting. Now, this is the way this came out because Hulk Hogan sued them because they released a sex tape with Hulk Hogan and the lady. But he was sitting there venting, and he was mad because at this time, his daughter was dating a black rapper. And Hogan's words was, I am racist to a point, fucking niggers. And there was more where he said, if she's going to date a nigger, why can't she date a basketball player, a multi-million-dollar nigger? That's not the exact quote. That's the summary. It made people upset. Rightfully so. Again, this was 2006. And I heard it. The first thing I did was I checked the date. When I saw the date was 2006, I said, okay. I understood one thing, and this is the last time I'm going to address this because I've addressed this privately, I've addressed this publicly. This is the last time I'm going to talk about it. If you don't understand, when people say, why do you still like Hulk Hogan? I'm going to send them to this episode 126 of Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. To explain it right there. The reason why I am a Hulk Hogan fan and don't have no hatred for Terry Bollea, besides the fact he follows the wrestling realm, is because in 2009, he wrote a book, My Life Outside the Ring, in which I read in 2011, 2012. The thing I learned about him was Hulk Hogan was going through depression. Hulk Hogan was ready near death's door. His son was in the hospital. I mean, his son was in jail because his best friend was out, and his son's best friend, Hogan's son was speeding. And after he was speeding, they crashed the car. His son's best friend was in bad shape. And he, offered to pay for everything, but instead the family wanted to sue. His wife had just left him. And Brooke blamed him for the breakup, blamed him for the son going to jail. He was right at death's door. He was ready to kill himself. And then suddenly he got a phone call. Layla Ali, the daughter of the great Muhammad Ali, the great boxer herself, called him. Say, "Hey, friend, how you doing?" Told her he wasn't doing well. He was ready to end it all. He went to church invited him to church. And it was then he changed his life. Got saved. I read that. I said, wow. So when I learned about this story years later, I said, well, when is the timeline? Oh, okay. That's before he was saved. Now I believe you can be born again. I believe you can redeem yourself, and I believe you can have a change of views. And that's the route I chose to take and believe and listen to. So do I hate Hulk Hogan? No, not at all. Do I hate Terry Bollea? No, not at all. Hogan is my favorite wrestler of all time, tied with Bret Hart. But boy, oh boy, back then, woo, when I said that in 2015, so many people called me all types of coons and Uncle Toms and fucking idiots, said I was the worst person because I still supported Hulk Hogan. I said, okay. Even people to this day continue to say, I want better, or you shouldn't be doing that. And okay, that's how I feel. Like, you're not going to change my mind. But here's the thing, I will never try to change yours. I will never tell somebody, oh, you need to support him. You need to forgive him. I'll tell you what I've done. You don't choose to. That is fine. Guess what? I hope to meet Hulk Hogan one day, and I meet him, selfie. But yeah, I choose not to go down that route. But I don't disrespect anybody who chooses not to, or who chooses to feel the way they feel, because at the end of the day, that's how you feel. And once we understand in this world, I'm not going to change you and you're not going to change me. It'll be a better place just for you and me. So there's that. And speaking of Noah Kaninga, now you may have seen the name, and his last name is spelled Knigga. When I saw this, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Now, the way I learned how to pronounce it, because I was scrolling through Twitter and I saw an interview with guess what? His father. And I was like, oh, okay. Want to know why I was surprised? Because he's white. And it's very interesting because I'm like, so this is going to be funny for years to come. But what's also going to be funny, because people say, oh boy, and he's going to West Virginia. Feel bad for the announcers. And I'm sitting there and I was like, wow, okay. This is also interesting because I'm wondering, where in the world did the name originate from? Like, how? How? Um, I have a good friend from back in the day. My friend Brandy. Brandy and I, we used to date. That was my first love back in high school, right? Her last name I'm not gonna drop her last name, but I'll say this. Her last name, which she has from her father, was changed because her father decided to change it. So that's why she has the last name that she has. So it's not tied to the family lineage, right? And I thought that was interesting. I said, okay, did Noah Kaninga's family decide? Like, where does this originate? You know what I mean? There's times when people will say, fathers, there's time people will change their names. I mean, no, excuse me. There are names that make sense, right? John, son of John, Jackson, son of Jack, Smith, I think it's Smithman or something, right? So I wonder, where did Kaninga come from? We shall see. I'm going to take a break real quick. And then when I come back, we're going to jump into a little bit of sports, because guess what? I'm pretty excited about this. Ladies and gentlemen, Are you in the gym every week? Are you looking to kind of keep yourself cool while you work up a nasty sweat? Well, I got the best thing for you. Cooling bands, bandanas, cooling towels, and so much more. Go to Vertical Athletics, get your favorite team in MLS or MLB, or guess what? Now they have a custom option so you can upload your own logo and you can save 10% at checkout when you enter the code Brian H. Waters. Go to verticalathletics.com, use the code Brian H. Waters to save 10% on some of your best cooling gear. And we're back. Ladies and gentlemen, Jokic, the Joker. Why? Everybody is feeling the pain of what this man can do. He beat Steph Curry at his own game winning 3 to put the Warriors away. The next day, I'm seeing one of their, I guess, future players was saying that he's not being used properly by the coach. And I'm like, dang, did he just like break them? Did he kill the dynasty? Like, bro, what the heck? He did that to my Lakers last year in 4 games. In 4 games. And I didn't want to believe it. I didn't, but my brother last year, the real Dwayne Allen, said, yo, that's the next face of the league, global expansion. I was like, God dang it, man. God dang it. I am not excited about this at all, but it is what it is. Shout out to the Denver Nuggets. Now, let's talk some real sports that I really care about, I should say. The Baltimore Ravens. Seems to be a lot of discord. Lamar Jackson, he is having the greatest season. And if you ask him, he probably would say at the end of the year, hopefully in February, this is the greatest season ever. Doesn't have the numbers, brother, but he may be a lock for the most valuable player. And that's the thing, right? People say MVP. MVP stands for most valuable player. And to me, it's him. You look at what he's done, you look at his head-to-head matchups, look at how he can change a game just like that. You see the improvement. He was a unanimous MVP in the 2019 season when the Ravens were 14-2. They currently sit at 13-3. It's not going to play this weekend for obvious reasons because they got the number 1 seed locked up as they was number 1 seed before. We're praying for different results here in Baltimore. When you look at Lamar, you think, wow. Like, I don't understand why is there even a discussion? Because, and this is why. A most valuable player is the player that's going to take you against teams such as the better teams, right? The Miami Dolphins. Oh, they have a top 5 defense. No problem. Lamar put up points. The 49ers, that's going to be the team. No problem. Well, Brock Purdy's supposed to be MVP. Shouldn't he been able to do the same to the Ravens? Nope. Bunch of interceptions. If the Tua Tagovailoa was supposed to be MVP, shouldn't he did the same thing? Nope. Not at all. Trevor Lawrence, people was talking about, next up, having a great season. Nope. I'll admit, when I saw this stretch of games, that's okay. This is going to be a test. If we can come out 3-3, solid. Ravens wasn't even, because they wasn't even the number 1 spot at the time. They kept winning and winning, and they finally hitting their stride. So it's exciting. You rather peak in February than peak in October. So I'm excited about the Ravens. And that makes me wonder, as the conversation of Discord around here has been, is Baltimore a football city or a baseball city? Now, it's easy to say football city because, one, for the past 25 years, the Ravens have been in a conversation. They've been exciting to watch. 23 years ago, they won their first world championship. and it was amazing. It was a great time, and they never looked back as being like a bottom feeding team. Sure, they had some bad seasons here or there, but their worst season, they were 4-12. That was the first season under Brian Billick, because last year they were 5-11. I think John Harbaugh may have won 6-10, 5-11 season, maybe not. The bottom line is they're always in a conversation, right? You look at the John Harbaugh years. He had Ray Lewis all those 5 years, right? Joe Flacco comes in. They came in together. He retires. Joe Flacco's there. He kept him above water. Anytime Flacco, he was always in the conversation of, okay, if he can get back to the Super Bowl form, right? You always had like you had a Terrell Suggs on the team. So they was always in those top echelons conversations. Never what the Carolina Panthers are right now or what the Houston Texans was last year. Then you move forward. Then Lamar Jackson comes and takes it by storm. Now, we had a couple bad seasons, but nonetheless, that's the thing, right? So Baltimore has always been behind the Ravens because of the consistency, too. You can easily name the three coaches: Ted Marchibroda, Brian Billick, and John Harbaugh. So, or did they have another coach? I believe it was just those coaches, right? Uh, so when you look at everything, you see the consistency. Yeah. And just look at this though. Ted Marchibroda, 96-98, 16-31-1. All right. Not good season. Funny story. Could have been Bill Belichick, but the Browns fired him. Next, Brian Billick, 99-2007, 80-64. Impressive. John Harbaugh, 2008-2023, or I should say current. The fact is that he, has more than 10 years. That's impressive. He's the second longest tenured coach, or maybe third in the NFL right now. But he's 160-98. How about that? How about that? You know, so it's very exciting. And I got that number. Bill Belichick's 23 years, Mike Tomlin, 16 years, John Harbaugh, 15 years. So Tomlin came in, had 1 year against Billick, and it's always been Harbaugh versus Tomlin. And that's what's exciting. But fourth is Pete Carroll with 13 years, and Andy Reid already 10 years with the Chiefs. And I almost remember when he joined the Chiefs. And then everything else is single digit. With Sean McDermott, only 6 years. Sean McVay, 6 years. Mike Vrabel, 5 years. Kyle Shanahan, 6 years. Matt LaFleur, already 4 years. So, in a league that has a lot of high turnover, shout out to John Harbaugh because he's been consistent. So, it's easy to say Baltimore is a football town. But then you look at the Baltimore Orioles and you see the way the city turned up. Now, for context, Tampa Bay have had some sort of consistency since they changed their name from the Devil Rays to the Rays, but they don't have the same type of support. They've had winning seasons, more than the Orioles. And the Orioles have had, some bad years. This time it didn't take that long because they actually decided to blow the team up and rebuild. But it's a fun conversation. It's a very fun conversation to have. I'm not going to choose neither. Of course, everybody knows me. I love my Baltimore Orioles. That is my favorite team. But truth is, we ain't always have a lot of winning seasons. And that's what I hate. We don't have that same consistency, you know. We don't. Unfortunately, we don't have the same consistency. Now look at the Rays, right? You look at them. They only finished in fifth place one time, and it was 68-94. That was the year. It was 2016. It was the year the Orioles made the playoffs in the wild card. Orioles and the Blue Jays. Orioles was in third place. But they have one, two. Since, like I said, since changing their name to the Rays, four first place, four first place seasons, right? But they also have two World Series appearances. So, and yeah, two World Series appearances. But Baltimore, I look at both, and like I said, the Orioles have found a way. The team and the front office have found a way to get the city reunited for this team, and now I think you'll see more marketing, and you'll see equal marketing. Because boy, I was in the playoff, I went to the playoff game this year. Let me tell you, that place was rocking and rolling. People love the Orioles. It wasn't a thing where it wasn't a capacity. No, people love the Orioles. And if the Orioles can have the same consistency as the Ravens have had, there will be no doubt that this is a even city as far as football town or baseball town. Right now, I think more people will easily say and have a great argument that this is a football town, and that's understandable. But I don't think it's because people don't like the Orioles. I think it's the consistency and the fact that for so many years they weren't good. They wasn't putting a product on the field that we could be proud of. And then there's more games, so it's like, nah, people wasn't going. But I think the Ravens would have maybe the same issue. I know football is different, but if they was say like every year they was only winning 2, 3, 4 games, and they do that for 6 to 7 years, first of all, the coaching staff will be ran out of here and everything. So that's where I'm at with that. But ladies and gentlemen, it felt good to be back here on Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. First episode of 2024. 24 is my favorite number. 24 is my favorite number. So I'm going to leave it at that. But I'm very excited. Thank y'all for joining me. A lot of uncomfortable conversations coming this year. We're going to discuss trending topics. We're going to talk The Iron Claw, my favorite movie. We might talk about that here. Or maybe more so the Von Erichs. I might take the show on the road, do some in-studio stuff somebody's studio. We're going to speak things into existence. So if you made it all the way this far, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Buy one of these shirts. No ceilings above your success. Until the next time, folks, I'm Brian H. Waters. So long, everybody. Podcasters and gamers, we all know it can be intense. We're talking, we're getting hype, we're passionate. Sometimes we need a boost. Well, you can get that by getting Rogue Energy. Rogue Energy is the #1 supplement for podcasters and gamers, and they have tons of different flavors, including Strawberry Burst, Tropical Breeze, and Cotton Candy. And you can save 10% by putting in the code Brian H at checkout. So go to rogueenergy.com and enter the code Brian H to save money.